Everybody, this is Draymond. Today we have a nice little 8-game Major League Baseball slate that starts at 6:40 Eastern. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It really does help the channel a lot. Really do appreciate it. Hopefully everybody did well yesterday. Pitching yesterday was absolutely rough, but today looks like it will be at least a little bit better. However, we do still expect to have a high-scoring slate here when it comes to the batters. So let's go ahead and get into our pitchers. Now, there's some decent options on the slate, and let's look at Tyler Glasnow first. Now, he's going to be the highest owned player on the slate by a lot. He does have a unfavorable matchup, I'd say, against Philadelphia, but it's still a decent matchup here. He's still got the potential to have a high-scoring game, even though in 3 of the last 4 games he's had some rough outings. He's got a favorable matchup here against the Phillies, who he's done pretty well against, and he also has the best K rate on the slate by over a strikeout and a half, so that definitely gives him an advantage as well. And he's on the night slate, so to keep that in mind as well. So he could definitely be a good solid option, though he's also the most expensive play on the slate. Looking at some other options, Hunter Brown for Houston has a decent matchup against Texas. Now, he has struggled against Texas already this season, but that doesn't mean that the matchup isn't decent for him here, as he does have a decent strikeout potential, even though he only got a few against Texas already this season. I do think he's a viable option, but he's definitely a contrarian play away from Glasnow. He's not by far. Glasnow's a lot safer in that situation. Looking at Logan Webb for the San Francisco Giants. He's got a good matchup here against Washington. He's also struggled some lately, but he definitely has a good upside game here, potentially. He hasn't faced Washington this season. This game is at Washington, too, so that should give him a little bit of an advantage as well. Granted, him being at home has actually been better this season. This particular matchup is decent, though, and he has an okay strikeout rate. I wish it was a little bit higher, but he's definitely in play on the slate. A couple of extreme GPP plays. Nola for Philly has an absolutely terrible matchup against the Dodgers, but he did crush the Dodgers the first time he played them with 9 strikeouts. He's definitely capable of that, and this will be on the late slate as well. So the Dodgers and the Philly, both pitchers, have some potential, though. Nola has been good throughout the season, though he has had some ups and downs the last couple of games. But he's faced a pretty tough schedule lately, so he's definitely worth a look here as he's been pitching very well. He'll also be very high owned. Looking at Gallen for Arizona, he has some interesting matchup metrics here against Cleveland. The strikeout rate is the bigger concern here, but he is definitely capable of a solid game. But there's a couple bats on Cleveland that do have upsides, to keep that in mind. Then we'll also look at Sears for Oakland. Now, the Chicago White Sox have lost 20 games in a row, and Sears has had some good games lately. He struggled early in the season quite a bit, but he has been better lately. Now, he did have a rough game against Houston a couple games ago, but he's been generally good, even against decent teams. So I think, and now he's facing one of the weakest teams in baseball right now. So I think he's in a good spot to have a good game. He is an extreme GPP play, but he's cheap enough that he's definitely worth a look. The bigger concern there is the strikeout rate, which is not very high. He's also on the night slate, though. That night slate is going to be absolutely logjammed with pitchers. Looking at Paxton for Boston. Oh, sorry, not Paxton. We do have 3 Hail Mary plays, one being Nick Martinez for Cincinnati Reds against Miami. Miami is in bad shape right now. Now, Martinez has played Miami twice. He didn't start those games, and he only pitched 4 total innings. He got a couple strikeouts. He's definitely a good Hail Mary option, as Miami does not project to score very many runs, but I also can't expect too many strikeouts from him either. Munez for Miami also is kind of a Hail Mary play, but he's high risk, high reward. He should be somewhat high owned, though. Festa for Minnesota. This will be his 3rd start, I believe, because he's pitched in 4 games, but I think he started 3 so far. He doesn't have a super high ceiling, but he's done okay, actually, in his last 2 starts against decently tough teams in Philly and the New York Mets, who have been on the upswing. And he's got a favorable matchup against the Cubs, which I didn't see too much from the Cubs that I like today. The Cubs tend to be kind of streaky, so I definitely think I think that he's in a good spot for being a Hail Mary play, being cheap, though he is high risk, high reward. And then Bush for Chicago White Sox. Now, he has not pitched yet in the majors. He should be called up. He was pretty good in Double A. He's kind of been rough in Triple A, though. But he does have enough strikeout potential that he could get a few strikeouts in this one. I do expect him to potentially give up a couple home runs, though. So the fact that he's $4,000 is really the only reason that you would really consider him at all. But he is a Hail Mary play on the slate. Let's go ahead and look at our catchers. All right, so this slate does feature a pretty interesting catching situation. Salvador Perez can play at first base as well. His matchup metrics today are solid. He's got some home run upside. He is pricey at $5,100, but if you can go a little bit cheaper at pitcher, you could fit him in either position, and he's definitely looking decent today. Patrick Bailey is a nice value catcher at $3,800 for the Giants. The Giants do project really well today, and he's one of my favorite plays from the team. They're going up against Patrick Corbin, who has been absolutely atrocious at times this season. So I think that he's got a lot of potential here. The ownership here are Gabriel Moreno, Patrick Bailey, and Salvador Perez. We do have some contrarian plays in Connor Wong, Freddie Fermin, and Shea Langerlace as well, but I think Bailey or Perez are really the safest two options on this one. Looking at first base, Ohtani does come off the page as a really good play today. I mean, he tends to look like a really good play just about every day. Now, he did struggle yesterday, but he has really good home run metrics today, so he's definitely worth a look. I don't really love him against Nola, but I also think that he's a viable play here. Some other options, Salvador Perez, who I already mentioned, Bryce Harper for Philly. Now, that is a tough matchup. It's Glass now. And then Josh Naylor for Cleveland has some potential here, even though it's a tougher matchup. He's got really good home run metrics, probably the best home run metric for any of the first basemen today. A couple of value plays that are going to be kind of contrarian today will be Nate Lowe and also Josh Bell for Arizona, as those two guys have some potential today, and they're cheap, but they're not going to have the most upside compared to the more expensive options. Ownership here, Ohtani, Josh Bell, Salvador Perez, Spencer Steer, and Seth Brown. When we look at second base, we do like Ketel Marte quite a bit. He's super expensive, though, and so that makes him pretty hard to roster today, but his home run metric is really good today, so he's definitely worth a look here. Marcus Semien also looks decent as a contrarian play off of him, and he's quite a bit cheaper, but he's still a little bit more expensive today than I would like based on the fact that his home run metric is not quite as good as it has been at times. Jose Altuve also looks decent today, but he's also pretty expensive, but he's definitely somebody you could play as a contrarian play. But I really like Miguel Garcia for Kansas City. He has really just the best home run metric today for this Kansas City Royals team, and he looks really solid just from a hitting perspective as well right now on this particular slate. So even though he has struggled at times this season, he has some really good upside here. I was shocked to see his home run rate being so good today, but this is just such a favorable matchup for Kansas City that he's definitely worth a solid look here. You could also look at the ownership, which is Ketel Marte, Miguel Garcia, Jose Altuve, and Kevin Newman, who's a cheap option. Low-owned upside guys, Willie Castro, Jameer Candelario, Casey Schmidt, and Jonathan India. Looking at third base, we do like Rafael Devers. He's super expensive today. He's going to be very hard to roster as a result. But I really like Matt Chapman today. He's got really good home run metrics. The Giants look absolutely phenomenal for this slate. He's been on a tear lately with good hitting, and he's had multi-hit games and home runs lately, so he's definitely worth a solid look today. He's probably my favorite play on the slate right now, just because his metrics are just off the charts. Miguel Garcia is the close second, and Garcia could also play here at third if you wanted to be contrarian here and use somebody else at second. But I think Chapman and Garcia are going to be top overall owned here, followed by Devers. Royce Lewis is a contrarian play that you could definitely utilize in a spot situation as well. Looking at shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr., Ella De La Cruz, CJ Abrams, and Corey Seager all look fantastic today. It's kind of nutty that they're all pretty expensive, but they all look really good today. But if we want some value options, Jeremy Pena for Houston is an interesting spot here. He has been up and down this season, but right today he has really good hitting metrics. Tyler Fitzgerald's just been on a heater. He's been absolutely fantastic lately. He's had some boomer bust type of situation because he's had a lot of bad games, zeros, but he's definitely capable of a big game if he can get a home run, which he's definitely capable in this matchup against Patrick Corbin, who's atrocious. For the ownership here, Ella De La Cruz, Tyler Fitzgerald, Bobby Witt, and Kevin Newman, low owned upside guys, Willie Castro, and Casey Schmidt. Looking at outfielders, so our top three are going to be Jordan Alvarez, uh, Otani, and Jarren Duran. Now I don't. Let's see. Sorry about that. Yeah. So Otani, Duran, and Alvarez, the top overall three with at least on the expensive side of things. I don't think we really have to go to any of these guys because we got so many good value options today. And I've kind of got some ideas on how to do this. So Abreu is a core play for me for Boston as his metrics are just absolutely phenomenal today. One of the best value plays on this entire slate. He's also had some monster games lately. But I also like Adolis Garcia. Now, Garcia has been very good as of at getting some home runs at times. He's projected really well today against Houston, who he's been really good against, and even against the matchup, he's done well. So he's got good stats as well. He actually has had 2 home runs against Brown in his career already, and that's definitely going to give him some potential as well. Juror, see, Encarnacion from San Francisco. He really jumped in his first 2 games. His first game with a pinch hit, he had a home run. He has been striking out some, but he's kind of a boomer bust play with $3,000. But he looks really solid today. And then also Darian Blanco. Oopsie. For Kansas City, he's kind of a one-off play. His metrics today look really solid, despite the fact that he struggled most of the season. It's very matchup dependent, and Kansas City looking like a really solid team today. So I think he's a good cheap option that you could kind of be contrarian with. A couple other players to consider: Luis Robert, Mark Canha, Michael Conforto. Michael Conforto is interesting today because he's had 5 career home runs against Patrick Corbin, and he's got a great matchup here as well. He's definitely somebody I thought about making a core play, but and then Jake Fraley also available here. Contrarian plays Masataka Yoshida, Kyle Schwarber, Marcus Dubon, and then Randall Grichuk. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave